Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Well, hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. That's stupid. The host should have muted the thing.
Rookie mistake.
Dang it.
Even I know to mute the YouTube.
Well, that's because I was playing that footage for you earlier, so. Does anybody else want to hear it?
No, not during a show.
Anyway, so how's everybody been doing?
It's interesting. Yesterday, I drove past 3 gun shops. The wife says, "Jim, you want to stop at a gun shop?" I actually said, "No, I can stop at a gun shop anytime I want to."
Well, that was awful nice of you.
Yeah, that was disgusting of me, too.
Well, it's not like you needed anything.
True. Oh, shut up, Travis. That was a good shot. Well aimed. Well done.
Someday.
You got to give me a warning before you do one of those. I had sweet tea in my mouth and it almost sprayed on the screen.
We'll get you, Phil.
Crap. Hook'em's in the chat.
Probably
Probably not. So, Jim, I'm guessing you, since you're passing gun stores, you haven't been shooting. Shed project.
Nope. Project's about 95% done.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah,
Phil, what you been doing?
Spending money.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I've been putting a little bit of long-term prepper food away in the pantry and getting some stuff together to go to prepper camp later this year in September. And decided to give magazines a try in my AR. They were highly recommended, but I've only ever shot like GI Milsurps and Magpul. I wanted to give them a try. And fortunately, Primary Arms was running an Independence Day sale that I could not pass up.
That's always a good thing.
How many did you buy, Phil? How many did you buy?
Just bought 5. I've already got 10 AR mags for one rifle, so I figure, there's a break-even point.
Yeah, I got about 50.
Yeah, well, you've also been collecting them since Eugene Stoner kicked the first one out of the factory, so I'm catching up.
Yep.
Jason, what you been up to? 2 weeks now.
2 weeks. Give me a minute.
Hey, Jason, has Kathy kicked your butt on that dueling tree yet?
We have not even thrown lead at it yet, Travis.
What the hell?
You're starting to sound like Jim.
Oh,
Dude. Travis, I used to like you, but yeah, I can't think of anything.
Alrighty. I loaded up some shot shells, and that's about it. I did want to show something off again. When I was down at NRA for Dallas, I was given this lovely, awesome reloading block.
Mike,
Wow.
You were at NRA for Dallas.
Yes, exactly. I'm sticking with
Okay.
it.
Just wanted to be clear on that. All right.
That's what I'm sticking with.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it is an awesome.
it's gorgeous.
It is from Bell and Carlson, so it's really nice. I like it a lot, and it's well, of course, because it's shiny and it fits all the way up to 308, 30-06 case, which is as big as I'm loading right now.
What do you do with 5.56? Put them in the same holes?
Yep. See?
Okay. They just flop around then.
But it makes a cool sound, so
Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle.
pretty much. Oh, they can't see the block because the camera's stuck on you for some reason. I'm sorry to everybody who's been watching live. That is just cruel and unusual punishment. Please forgive. So here is my pretty fancy block. And I would tell you the person's name, but unfortunately, he got himself in Facebook jail for a bit. So I will have to release the name later because he's under
Does it say something on the side of there, Mike?
Says Bell and Carlson, 0.473. So that is the diameter of the hole. So I wanted to show it off again. I also wanted to say thanks to Brewer Bill for sending up some fun stuff to play with. He sent me a bunch of stuff he had laying around that he wasn't using. So there's a couple things I'll play with and send off. And then there's some 308 bullets that I'll probably wind up giving away. So, looking forward to doing that.
So when you give stuff to the listeners, do you actually mail it?
I try to. Usually.
Well, that's good because I'm glad you treat them better than you treat me.
Like you've had a chance to use it anyway, Painting Boy.
If I had it, I would make a special trip out there. Like, I'm taking the day off. See ya. Bye.
All right, everybody, that's video proof. So
I can take a day off if I want to.
sure.
Unless I get voluntold to do something.
I know how that goes. My last night was spent going and rescuing my brother from the side of the road because he dropped his entire front and rear drive shaft and the transfer case out of his Jeep Liberty.
Oh, that was the post I saw. It was your brother's car, huh?
Yeah,
How did he do that?
we don't know. There's still part of it looks like it's probably attached to the tranny. I refuse to crawl underneath the truck and look.
No.
Couldn't do
It's
it.
made by Chrysler.
Well,
I'm pretty sure that's part of the problem.
Good point, Phil. Good point.
and actually, doesn't Freedom Group have something to do with Chrysler?
It would not surprise me at all.
Is that right?
Oh,
Hmm.
All right, so Paul in the chat has a question. Hi guys, I have a problem with my 223 bolt loads. My ES is way too high. I weigh every charge in casings restored. Action is a Remington 700 with a Krieger barrel.
It's a Remington. Next.
That's so Jason,
Okay,
what does ES stand for?
Pardon me?
What does ES stand for?
Extreme spread.
Excellent.
So he's got a high extreme spread. I don't think your gun has a lot to do with that.
No,
I'm gonna ask, what kind of brass are you using, Paul? What brand? That's gonna be my first question.
yeah, what brand brass and what powder?
And how much are you filling the case? Because I mean, when I start hearing a large variance in extreme spread, I start thinking you're not filling the case up all the way, so you're getting some inconsistent powder burn.
Shut up, Phil. Nobody wants to hear from you.
Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna sit here and mute myself. Stick my fingers in my ears for the rest of the show.
Sorry, dude. I don't know why I said that. I just felt like slashing out.
Feel better now.
It's okay. They say that the mind is the first thing to go when you reach old age.
I thought that was the second thing to go.
Yeah, but it's a family show, so I'm not going to mention the first thing.
Oh, I thought maybe you forgot what the first thing was.
I'm not that old, Jason.
Could be all the swamp gas you inhale. I don't know.
All right, guys,
Uh,
back to
Hornady Brass RL15.
Okay.
And what is your case capacity, if you know, Paul? Or what is your charge?
what weight bullet to? Just out of curiosity.
And right now, I don't know how consistent Hornady Brass is, just because I haven't personally tested it, so I'm not sure. I'm actually working with some on my 6.5. So I need to figure out 25 grains of RL15.
Did he mention what weight bullet he's driving?
Not yet.
I'm just curious, so I can try to get an idea of how hard he's shoving that round.
Oh, 223. Good grief. I was thinking 25 grains is really light for 308.
I'm looking for.
Cricket, cricket, cricket.
Yeah, I'm looking for Jeremy's.
Oh, you're looking on his thingy?
For it, but I don't see it on the page. I don't see the file puller anyway on the podcast page.
77 grain. Sierra
Um,
or Syria. Sorry,
Well-
Paul. I'm going to pick on you a little bit for spelling.
That sounds pretty heavy for that bullet. It is a slow powder, according to Werner Kohlmeyer. I don't know the powder myself, but it sounds like it might be a tad slow.
Actually, what I'm looking at in Hornady's data, at least, I think this is their 9th edition. I'm showing for 5.56, which is a higher pressure than 223. 24.9 is a max charge for RL15 with a 77 grain or 75 grain. But it is kind of one of the faster powders in the lineup, at least for this data set. So possible he may not be filling the case all the way. But I don't know how bulky RL15 is either. It's not a powder I use typically.
I still like BLC2 for that stuff.
Yep. I use CFE 223 and BLC2. Haven't had bad luck with either one.
Yeah, I like the CFE 223. That's good stuff.
Of course, I don't have a chronograph either to measure my speed, so I'm just going off accuracy.
Chronograph's a good investment. It's actually more valuable than a gun.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds like heresy, but the point is the chronograph can give you a lot more information about every gun you got.
Yeah, chronograph and spotting scope are on the to-do list. Just need to go sell an organ. No,
So
Paul,
he's at 2,800 feet per second with the 77 grain. I don't know how that rates. Is that
that's
okay?
based off my data. Yeah, that's about right.
His load's right there, right there. 25 grains, charge weight 25 grains. You said max was 24.9.
Yeah, now that is Hornady data, and in my experience, Hornady's data tends to be a little bit conservative. So I don't think he's about to split a barrel, but I mean he's not soft-handed in the round.
Okay.
Exactly.
I mean he's probably doing all he can do with that particular load without, starting to smash primers.
So, how about your primers, Paul? What brand are you using? Have you ever tested case capacity consistency on the Hornady Brass? So Travis, what do I need to purchase from you next?
Everything.
Spoken like a true salesman.
You're an expensive date, I'll have you know. But I like your product.
Well, you need to get out and use them.
I do,
That's why I haven't sent Jim anything.
because he won't go use them.
Actually, you did. You sent me an 8-inch target that I absolutely love.
Does it still have the factory paint on it, Jim?
No. No. No, I repainted it. Had to.
Cases are all within 1/10 of a grain of capacity wise, and primers are Federal match small rifle.
My honest thought, since I don't hear anything in there that really gives me cause for concern, I would almost say try another powder. I mean, I've never heard bad things about Reloader 15, but I don't have any experience with it. I don't know.
Precision Marksmanship HQ says Jim uses his target as a coaster.
Well, I looked at Jeremy's spreadsheet for 308, and the Hornady is one of the larger variances in case capacity when he measured with water.
Okay, Paul says he purchased 1,000 cases and worked out 100 cases to use for load development.
Yeah.
So if he's doing all that, he's on the right path.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking at this point, Paul, with what I know, you need to try a different powder.
Yep. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
So Rex says it sounds like a twist issue or being seeded into the lands. Twist rate will screw with your extreme spread.
I don't think so, but I'm not the expert.
Yeah, I haven't done enough testing to find out, honestly.
I could see where twist rate would affect accuracy, but we're just talking about extreme spread at this point. I've never come across that then.
I mean, I could definitely see where an inconsistent seating depth would cause the velocities to get messed around with, but or if you were like just barely up against the lands and there's a little bit of inconsistency there from into lands to out of lands, I could see that too, but I can't. I mean, I don't personally see the twist rate causing an ES issue.
Yeah, it's I'd say the powder. Out of everything we have, so it's a 1-in-8 twist. Okay, that's nothing wrong with that for that weight bullet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got two
2/10.
Guessing that's supposed to be 2/1000. 2/10 is
Oh, okay.
so it's not an extreme jump, not a bad twist rate. Yeah, pretty much everything else leads to powder. The only other thing is if the charges aren't consistent, could obviously cause it. Did he answer how he was metering it?
Don't believe he did, but I mean, I naturally assumed if he'd gone through this much trouble, he'd be individually weighing charges.
Right.
I do believe he said that first thing, that he is weighing charges.
The charge weights are up to 25 grains,
Okay. Yes, he.
but he
It-
never did say what he's using to measure it. So that might, that could be a possibility, especially after what we had last week with the Ruger that got blown up because they put a triple charge of tight group in it. So if your measuring device isn't accurate, that could cause issues. You're throwing oddball charges.
Did Matt, was he on the chat last week?
I don't know.
Did he ask about his Smith & Wesson 500 he was having an issue with?
Yes.
Does that ring a bell? Okay. Did you guys have an answer for him?
We discussed it quite a bit.
Okay.
I don't know if we ever came to a consensus or not. But
He called me and I had an answer for him. But I told him we would discuss it on the podcast, and then of course I didn't get on.
Yeah.
Lyman 6000. I don't know what that is. Is he talking about a balance scale?
I want to say that might be a electric.
Says it's a powder measure, so it must be. He probably is electric, because I know the old powder measure was a number 55. The one with the little knocker on the side. That's not Lyman number 55.
Okay, but what's a 6000?
Google it.
Google this. Google head.
I am.
I don't know.
Good.
6,000 up as a
Hookem says it's an electric.
Sonic cleaner.
It's a
Ultrasonic
sonic cleaner?
cleaner. Yeah.
that explains everything.
Okay, well, there's your problem, Paul. You're weighing your powder charge with the sonic cleaner.
He's probably talking about the Generation 6.
Oh, a Gen 6. Oh,
Electric powder measurer.
okay.
So if he's
I
calibrating
think that's the one that I've got.
and double checking it with a manual scale that's also calibrated, then he should be okay. Yeah, I definitely look at the powder.
I think Paul drinks.
If he listens to this, he probably does. Tunes in a lot.
Maybe I should rephrase that. I think maybe Paul drinks too much.
Is there really such a thing if you're still conscious?
Well, he's failing at his typing.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Mike.
Yeah.
Is there such thing as drinking too much if you're a brain surgeon and you're the one on the table? Consciousness is not necessarily the best measure.
No. So what you're saying is it's relative.
Yeah, everything's relative.
Linear relativity. All right.
Lyman AccuTouch 2000, Lyman Gen 5 touchscreen powder scale, Lyman Pro 500. Had to be a typo.
Okay, so he's talking about a ES of 50 feet per second.
That's not bad.
Well, it depends on what his goal is. It's a bolt gun, so theoretically, you're trying for. Yeah. I mean, entirely possible 50 feet per second can be with a bolt's going over a crony, depending on.
Yeah, you got a point there.
The other thing is what chronograph, as Kel mentioned.
Right.
There's lots of different things. Having an ES of 50 FPS is perfectly fine for some people, but obviously not in this circumstance. That's kind of what he's looking for, is to get less than that. And there's nothing wrong with, aiming for that. So, matter of, playing around with the combinations so you get what you want, where you want. But there's, other factors.
Order.
In the chat, Tony brought up another good thing. What time of day? What's the lighting like during the chronographing? If it's sunlight 1 second and then the clouds are the next shot, that can affect it too.
You can also have too much light. Bright
Right.
sunlight is too much light.
Yeah. There's lots of factors that go into this, and it's just kind of, it's taking your time, Paul, to eliminate them one by one. 50 FPS, to get that narrowed down, you might be looking at having a lockdown sled with a remote trigger to take you out of it. Because are you jerking it at all when you're firing? And is it causing the bullet to yaw at all as it's coming out the barrel because you're jerking it? 50 FPS could be caused by something like that too. Or more importantly, if it's not in the exact same spot every time, like somebody suggested, changing where it's going over the crony, whatever you want to call it, can change it up. So, and yes, I would agree. Having watched the lab radar, once you figure out where to set everything, it's amazing.
Really, you got one of those, huh, Mike?
Yeah, I'm gonna play
That's cool.
it to you too, you whiner. There. Yeah. Reloading press kind of, covered it quite a bit. 50 feet per second isn't anything unusual. Powder choice and pressure curve can cause larger ES, and that regardless of reloading process. So, yeah, chamber heat, there's, yeah, that was easy to say. Lots of different possibilities. So, Paul, let us know what you find out. So, everybody by now who's listening to the podcast on a regular basis remembers the review I read a couple of weeks back from Nathan. Nathan sent a follow-up. And he says he has to start back reiterating that I love what you were doing. And I think that kind of got lost in the rest of it. He did say he did appreciate that my comments about advanced info or techniques aren't so much advanced, but the request is to include those bits of info like how to know you are swaging the primer pocket enough. I could not find it online or in the instructions, Hornady lock and load swage die set, so I developed my own method. I started looking at the primer pockets under magnification and turning the die in until I got some swage on all pockets. Those kinds of hints from your experience will really grow the show. Also, did you know that full-length sizing can grow bottleneck cases several thousandths longer if the die is set too long? Did you know the consistency of case lube application can greatly affect shoulder to case head variation? Surely you found these and more. Sharing your personal techniques can help us all grow, even if we can't use it directly. So that's kind of what he was trying to more get at, and I appreciate the email, and that's why I wanted to read it right away the first show. To kind of, that's what he was aiming for, not necessarily advanced techniques, but the little tricks and tips that we sometimes forget when we're doing it, that we just kind of automatic now. And yeah, that's kind of something we all need to spend a little more time focusing on to make sure that we're sharing those little tips and tricks.
Well, as a follow-up to Nathan's comment about lubrication, a little tip that I've learned over the years is, you might weigh out, we'll say 200 cases. You put them in a 1 gallon Ziploc bag, and then you might put 1/3 of an ounce of lubricant in there. That's actually way too much. You might measure out 6 drops. We'll just say, just for argument's sake,
yeah.
And you weigh that out, and shake it around for 15 minutes, or you run in a tumbler in the Ziploc bag for 15 minutes. You could do things like that. Depends upon how benchified you want to get. That's a fancy word, by the way.
Exactly.
No, and I'll just intone from my own personal experience, because I have a feeling I'm probably the most junior reloader here. Honestly, what I discovered a lot of times when it comes to things that you can't directly measure, like is this case lubed enough or things like that, honestly, you get a feel for it pretty fast. Because I did something really boneheaded a couple weeks ago, and I tried to resize a 223 case with no lube, and it ended about as well as y'all are expecting.
Yep.
But in hindsight, if I hadn't been a complete Nimrod at that exact moment, I would have known before the case got stuck something was wrong, because it felt different.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was binding and grinding, and the press was making all kinds of noise, and nothing about it felt right. But I couldn't get the message from brain to hand fast enough to stop. So I smashed all up in there and ripped the rim right off. It was beautiful. I also figured out how to get a case out of a die without the little case remover they sell you. I figured out a way.
How?
Well, bearing in mind that I have RCBS dies, I took I don't even know what the proper term for it is, Jim. You're going to slap my hand for not knowing all this because you're a machinist. But I took kind of the collet out and left the decapping rod in the case, and
Yes.
I made sure that the pin was down through the bottom, and I threaded that collet back on the top a couple of turns to protect the threads, and just tapped it out with a hammer. Used the decapping rod to shove the case back through, pushing against the bottom of the inside of the case.
Okay, Phil, the warning, word of warning. On the bottom where it holds the decapping pin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know how it's split, like so, right?
Yep.
That's a very good way to bend that, if not break those off. That means you would probably be well advised, if you're going to persist in doing that, in getting yourself a couple decapping spindles for your 223 die.
No, that's well placed advice. I have extra pins. I don't have extra spindles.
Right.
Fortunately, what I do is just make sure I lube my cases. But the point was, and especially since I started using the Redding or the Imperial case size wax,
Yes.
you get that stuff on your fingertips. You only have to reapply it like every so many cases, but you can feel when it's time to get more lube on your fingertips.
Yes, sir.
Because
Absolutely.
you get just a little bit too little, and it's not like the case will stick, but you'll feel it. And I immediately know, okay, that one was a little rough. Get more lube on the fingertips and keep going. Oh, that was a little bit too much because, it's I started denting shoulders. I know it's too much lube.
The hand will tell you if the brain listens.
Yeah. And that's not to obfuscate the fact that, calipers and scales are a beautiful thing, but there are some things that cannot be measured. And those are the things you just have to, I can tell you it feels different, but I can't explain to you how until you put your hand on the press.
Yep. You have to get the feel for it. And you can't explain to someone how to pick up that feel. They got to do it themselves. I was actually going back to Nathan's very nice message about full-length sizing, growing bottleneck cases several thousands longer. That's normal. That's case neck stretching is what that is. And if the day is set too long, yes, you're right. You're right. But the point is, cases normally grow after you resize them. That's why I trim mine after I resize.
Mm-hmm.
The reloading press has got a nice little tidbit about drill and tap the primer hole and then screw a piece of bar or something in. Well, that's what you do with a stuck case kit. The RCBS stuck case kit. You drill and tap the hole and you pull it out with a bolt.
Yes, unfortunately, you're looking at the bonehead who told himself, I'll never need that. I'm never going to forget to lube a case. And let me just tell all you out there, forgetting to lube a case is like falling off a bicycle. It's not if, it's when. Because I'm going to tell you, as meticulous as I am and as scared as I am of blowing my fingers off doing this, I did it. And it was purely because I just wasn't paying attention.
Exactly. That's the real problem right there. Right there, the 2 words, 3 words, 4 words. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, I wasn't doing anything.
In other words,
Go ahead, Jim.
right. I was just going to say, in other words, something distracted you. You had your mind on something else. A conversation you had with your wife, your little girls might not be feeling well, whatever the case may be. Your mind wasn't on your reloading. I'm not chewing your tail, Phil. I'm just telling you facts of life that we all do.
Nope. I take my licks because that's exactly what happened. I can't even remember what it was. It was. I think I may have.
Yeah,
I may have.
doesn't matter.
I may have accidentally stuffed a primer into a primer pocket sideways or something like that, and thought to myself, "Okay, I just need to punch the primer out real fast, and I can save the brass." So I very hurriedly stuck it up into the Dive Valley lube and ruined the whole case. But you know, hands outran brain.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than when you get a stuck case or a broke pin when you're hoping to sit down and do a nice reloading session.
That little machine behind you, it would definitely gum up your works. You break a decapping pin or stick a case. It would definitely gum your works up. That comment, guys, was addressed to Travis, actually, on a personal level.
Yeah, I do all my trimming and sizing on another press anyway.
Yep, I'm still the stubborn one that is going to continue to use a single stage until I just get fed up with it. I'll tell you what, though, at least from my perspective, it isn't even like loading ammo that is the most time-consuming part of it. It's the freaking brass prep.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody invents a fully automated machine where you pour brass in one side and it comes out the other side fully prepped, they'll be a freaking billionaire.
They call them ammo factories.
Yeah,
Okay.
Camdex.
If they make one that is affordable for the average person, let me preface that. I am the business person, so there's always a cost-benefit analysis involved here. But if somebody can make one that costs like reasonable money, they'll sell them to everybody.
One of the things I always hated was trimming brass. That was the worst part of it.
You want to hear the really disgusting part? Bear in mind, I'm in the middle of loading just as much 5.56 as I can to feed this new AR. I'm trimming it all with a Lyman hand-powered trimmer.
You got a cordless drill at the house, Phil?
Yes, I do, but I do not have the little shaft that replaces the hand-powered one, and you can't take the handle off without drilling the damn thing off. At least not from what it looks like.
Well, try unthreading it. Excuse me. Try unthreading it, and do not chuck on the threads. Try to chuck directly on the shaft itself.
Yeah, honestly, what I've been looking at is Franklin Arsenal makes like a case prep station that does the trimming and the chamfer deburr and everything. Someone recommended that to me and said it's actually fairly quiet, which is a bit of an issue for me being in a small enclosed garage.
You've got one of those, don't you, Jason?
I believe
muted,
Jason
Jason.
has a Gerard.
No, I think he's. Do you have one of those, Franklin Armory?
He's muted, and I don't know if he realizes he's muted.
Mike, can you unmute him?
I can
There
do
he
it. I'm
is.
a big boy. Maybe I didn't want you to hear what I was saying.
Jason, didn't I see a Facebook video of you trimming some stuff on one of those?
On a Frankfurt Arsenal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have one of those.
So is it total junk and I should just run the other direction, or is it worth looking into? Because I mean,
It's worth looking into. It's okay.
You still got to hold every piece of brass in your hand, and that gets
Exactly.
pretty
It's
tiresome.
not
You've got-
super fast.
Now you also have an Dillon RT1200, don't you, Jason?
The 1300, I think it's called.
They got the 1200 and then the 1500.
1500.
That's so much better, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's fast.
It's a brass trimmer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I process, I size and then with one die, and then I also trim it with the RT1200 all on the same press, and then I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. And after you do a couple thousand rounds, your hands are tore up if you got to do it any other way.
you develop some pretty good calluses very quickly. I can attest to
Oh.
that.
Or arthritis.
I'm 35 and spent some time in the military. I already have that. No, but that's like the next big thing I've got to get sorted out is just finding a more efficient way to trim. Because my father actually has a world's finest trimmer, and I tried that, and I just couldn't really make peace with it. I think looking back on it, my problem was I wasn't applying enough pressure and wasn't running the drill fast enough. But that's kind of what I have to figure out. I have to find something that works for me, because doing this,
Yeah, this is where
using the Armstrong hand trimmer is just killing me for time.
Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, reloading never saves you money. You just find more tools to buy.
Well, I tell you what, my WFT, I use it in a drill press, Phil, and I run it at lowest speed, which is about 600 RPM. And I can trim and deburr and chamfer case mounts in one coffee can. I can do that at a rate of about 600 an hour.
Yeah, Phil, when you do get trimming and stuff, about how many cases are you doing at a time?
Until the pain in my fingers has reached a point where I can't tolerate it anymore.
So is that 100, 200?
That might be 100. I mean, honestly, I've got everything set up on my bench in a constant, a constant process, trimming and cycling brass through the process. But I mean, I'm good for maybe 50 to 100 in a sitting, and I'm just my hands are too beat up, my arms too tired to do it.
You need to purchase a 650 with the trimmer on it, assuage it, and then, dude, you do like 800 an hour or something. It's nothing.
And you never touch a case if you use a case feeder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, if somebody want to make me a 0 interest loan. I got a wife and a kid. They like shiny stuff.
I'm gonna mute myself now. Here's your answer, Phil.
That's what I was afraid of.
Well, believe this or not, we skipped over what I did over the shooting weekend, but I picked up a Dillon 450 at a yard sale.
Wow.
So I was talking to Mike. I'm in the process of converting that over to a 550, and then I'm going to put my trimmer and stuff on that. But I need to get a 650 also, but I got rid of the two progressives I had, and I found that, and I couldn't pass up on that. It's not every day you find a Dillon at a yard sale.
Right. What do you have directly behind you, Travis?
That one's a 1050.
Oh,
So,
that.
in all actuality, I'll probably buy another tool head and put the trimmer and everything on that. And then once I get that 450 converted to a 550, I'll use it for my 458 SOCOM and 300 blackout.
Mm-hmm. Dang. How do you like that 1050?
Oh, I love it.
Have you
If I
automated
had,
it yet?
no, because like I was saying before, half the fun to me is pulling the handle.
Okay. I can dig
So,
that.
so then and then I don't mind upgrading it, but also, is it worth $2,000 to not pull a handle?
Right.
But if I had to do it all over again, I'd probably get the new Mark 7 press that they just came out with.
So you know what you got to do, Phil.
Yeah. Spend more money.
No, save money. Put it in a separate account. That's what I do.
Yeah, the only thing that'll hold me up right now is that myself and the co-host for my podcast, we're looking to go into prepper camp the end of September. So we're in the middle of amassing some cash and some gear to do that because we're basically going to be rustic camping for 3 days in a field
Yeah,
with God
man.
knows how many other preppers.
And I hope you guys enjoy yourself.
I expect we will. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's forcing me to purchase some long put off camping gear that I'm going to want to be using for the family anyway. Now that my daughter's getting to an age where we can take her camping and not be miserable.
They're lusting over the 550 in the chat room. Should be. Sorry, we had a rather big problem here in my local hometown. I don't know if anybody heard it. Probably, I don't know if Mike picked it up or not, but about 5 minutes into the show, my whole entire house shook. Because there was a building in downtown Sun Prairie, which is 4 or 5 miles from here, is now gone. They had a gas leak. Sounds like they got everybody out and evacuated, so nobody's hurt. But yeah, so we've been trying to make sure that we didn't have anybody that was there, and it was about 2 blocks from where my mom lives, so I was trying to get a hold of her. So that's where sorry about all that. But you guys did an awesome job keeping everything rolling. So, all right, on to our next.
Wow.
Yeah. Just kind of one of those. Well, makes you sit back and think things. So on to our next. Email. Jim, where'd the one? Oh, never mind. Okay. So Brewer Bill, who's one of the regular listeners, sent this in a couple of podcasts ago, and I think this was probably about 10 or 12 by now. Jim mentioned in passing machining that he had done to a friend's reloading die. Do you think you could do a segment about Jim's machinist career and how it relates to the reloading hobby? I'm just a hobbyist tinkerer, but I'd be interested as to how a professional machinist approaches reloading. I can't tell you how many times I've seen or heard the advice, just take it to your local machine shop and have them. I live in the Chicago area. Yes, I am going to apologize. And yes, the Bears will suck. I don't even know how to find a machine shop, let alone how to approach them about doing reloading related stuff. Yeah, pretty much. In a nutshell, what mods might a machine shop do for a reloader? How does one find a machine shop? How does one approach a machinist about doing a 1 or 2 piece job? Who might benefit from having machine shop work done? What are some common machine tool process that are regularly performed by machinists on their own reloading gear as far as specialty tools and modifications? And then on a completely different subject, your segments with Mr. Sharpless are great. It's nice of him to come to on your show and give his insider perspective to the reloading world. He seems like a great guy willing to share his passion. I always learn something new when he is a guest. Keep up the great work. On the second part, yeah, it's awesome. We can't thank Robin enough. when he's able to come on. And the funny thing is inside baseball stuff is we usually have a plan of what we're going to talk about, and that usually goes out the window in about the first minute.
With Robin, you're right.
He has so much knowledge and so much passion. It's awesome to just give him an idea, just a bit of an idea, and let him go.
Yep, let him run.
Most of the stuff that he says, there's no way I could even think of asking a question that would pull that information out. If I could figure out a way to do it, and if he had the time, we'd probably have him on for a segment every week. But I know he's a very busy person, and but I mean, just amazing to have people like that. We've had a lot of awesome people that have come on the show, and we're just grateful for everybody. And yeah, it's great to have Robin on. So on the first part, Jim,
Yes, sir.
This is kind of pretty much your bailiwick.
Well, let me clear my throat.
Let me clear my throat.
I did say that, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
But anyway, the machining I'm talking about was not on a reloading die per se. The machining I was talking about was on the sprue plate for my bullet mold.
Okay.
And I put a groove connecting every sprue for every cavity. Basically, I have 6 cavity mold. I have a nice long string of holes there. But what I did was I took a ball nose end mill and I basically carved or cut a curvature in the sprue plate, SPRUE sprue plate, to connect all 6 cavities together. So when I cut it, they all cut together. Yes, that's obvious. But the thing is, it's you get a more consistent cast. I feel you also get a more consistent overrun because you need a little bit of extra weight behind you, behind the on the top of the sprue. You get a little bit more weight when you cut, and it seems to work better for some reason or another. And I've done some for a friend, and I wouldn't take any money for it. I've done several people, and I don't usually ask for a whole lot for it, but I could do it. It's not a big deal to me. Just all you got to do is connect the holes, basically.
Yeah, so
And
Jim,
you
when
can
I heard this,
Go ahead,
when I
Travis.
heard this question, this is exactly what I was thinking about. Was when you talked about this last time, and I did want to ask you when you cut your plate, how far down did you actually cut that channel?
I left about 032 material on the bottom of the sprue. Okay, you follow what I'm saying? From I mic the thickness of the plate. Hold that plate up again, Travis, please. Yes, right there, where his index finger is touching on the top side of the plate. I mic the thickness of the plate to the other side, and then I take a cutter and I go in there. If it's 190 thousandths, I'll go in there 160 thousandths and leave about 32 thousandths thickness. Right. Thank you, Travis. That helps a lot. You can do that. I've known people to do it with a Dremel grinder, but you don't get a consistency when you do that.
No, I was wanting to ask you about this. You talked about this quite a while ago, and I've been curious about this since I've heard about it.
Well, what I did was I lined that up in the milling machine in a milling machine vise. It's called a Kurt vise. Everybody usually calls it a Bridgeport vise. It's a Kurt vise, and it's indicated to run true on the table. Now, Travis, would you hold that up again for me, please? I clamp it on the long sides, both sides where Travis's thumb. Well, close it back up for me for a second, would you please? Right there where Travis's index and forefinger are and his thumb, that's where I close and hold it in the vise, holding it level on parallels, just level with the top of the vise. And then I go from hole 1 to hole 5, and I take a cutter and make my groove. Now, the cutter I usually use for that cutting is a .500 half-inch ball nose end mill. I don't use a flat nose end mill because that creates a sharp, hard corner in that plate, and I don't think that's a good idea for that plate. I'm afraid it would buckle under the pressure of breaking the sprue open.
And you
I
feel
leave
like
about-
you get better fill out and everything doing it like that? It's not
Yes, I
just
do.
for convenience. Okay.
Yes, I do. I feel like I get better because there's more down pressure. If you know what I'm trying to say, down pressure of the molten lead that's in the cavity or the channel I create in the sprue, there's more down pressure pressing on the lead in the cavity. You follow what I mean?
Yeah, it's pushing on all of them all at once versus
All at once,
one
right?
individual.
Hot lead, hot molten lead, and then when you learn, as you know by now, because you're casting, when you learn to see that sprue freeze, you break it open, and a lot of times it'll just drop right in my hand. A lot of times it'll just drop right over into my hand, my gloved hand.
That's
And if
good
it
to know.
doesn't, I just take it, turn it over, and tap it on the palm of my glove, and invariably that sprue comes right out. The other thing is too, Travis, because I know you're thinking about doing your own cutting. I try to keep the machine finish as good as I can. I don't want a rough finish. Use some WD-40 or some cutting oil. Yes, I know it's soft aluminum, but what I'm saying is you want a nice, fine, smooth finish so those sprues release much easier. I did that one time on I left a rough finish on a sprue, and I was sorry, and I had to go back and recut it.
Did it tear your mold up, top of your mold?
No, it didn't tear it up. What it is, it doesn't release. The sprue doesn't release from the plate as easily.
Gotcha.
So, Jim, would you be using a high spindle speed for that?
For aluminum, absolutely, absolutely, Kel.
Quick update. Mike's got to go pick up his mom. Everything's fine, but she's excited. So,
And nervous.
yeah, I mean, a building blew up. So,
Yeah, really.
so he gets back.
All right. Well, Kel, I'm sure you know how to shut it off when the time comes.
Unplug it.
That'll work. But anyway, so yeah, you want that's why with aluminum you want to have a good high finish. You usually run aluminum at about 400 feet per minute, 400 surface feet per minute.
Now,
Sounds
Jim,
like are you in the machine trade, Kel?
I was a machinist for 6 years.
Right. Okay. But you know what I'm talking about, surface feet per minute. What I'm talking about is the speed of the periphery of the cutter. Anyway, Josh, you had a question.
you keep saying aluminum, but you're cutting the sprue, right? This plate, right? Not
Right.
the actual mold.
The sprue plate is aluminum.
Oh, okay. These ones are steel that I'm using.
Is that a Lee mold?
No, these are NOE.
Oh, okay.
But the Lees aren't aluminum either.
Yes, they are. Sorry to disagree with you, sir. With respect, yes, they are.
6 cavity or aluminum, 2 cavity or steel.
Right.
Okay, all right.
And I've also cut steel plates too, just like you're holding in your hand, Travis. And it's not a problem. You just have to take and adjust your speeds and feeds accordingly. You follow me?
Yep.
What I'm talking about for those uninitiated into the machining trade, you can cut aluminum a lot faster and you can feed it a lot faster than you can with steel. Mild steel, you run at about 75 feet per minute, and aluminum, you run about 400 feet per minute. Like I said, I'm talking about the outer diameter, the speed of the diameter. How many feet per minute is that diameter turning? It's a long, involved process, and I don't think it really has a place here on the show. If you really want to know, Google how to calculate surface feet per minute, and it'll come up.
And just to get people in the right spot, we're using a 2-flute or a 4-flute.
Kel, speak up, please.
Just to get people in the right spot, were you using a 2-flute or a 4-flute?
2-flute. 4-flute will work just well too. In
When
fact,
you're
it'll work
cutting
better
aluminum-
because a 4-flute will actually work better. You just have to make sure you keep it well lubricated because you've got those teeth flying around so rapidly, they have a tendency to gum up.
Yeah, when you're cutting aluminum, you got to use a certain coating.
Right.
End mill is coated,
WD-40.
right?
Most of the machinists I use in the shop I'm working in, we use WD-40. Boy, I put Jason and Phil to sleep.
No, I'm multitasking, just listening to y'all.
Okay.
I am not a machinist. My machining ability consists of filing, hammering, and grinding.
Believe it or not, those are very basic skills that every machinist has to have.
Yeah, but I think you probably employ a little more precision than what I'm used to.
Well, it's called cut and try. When you get close, you slow down. When you get it on, stop.
No, metalworking
But anyway.
was never something I picked up. I fell into woodworking.
Yeah, well, woodworking is machining on a larger scale. But anyway, the point I was talking about a while ago, using a Dremel grinder, I don't advise it because you just can't get it consistent. And you could wind up cutting right through that sprue plate. In fact, I'll tell you this, guys, I have actually cut, Travis, be very careful because I actually ruptured the bottom side of a sprue plate because I cut it a little too close. I tried to leave only 15 thousandths and it just wasn't enough material. And I ruptured the bottom of it. It actually lifted, forced the plate to lift off the top of the mold like this, exaggerating. And I wound up having to buy some new sprue plates from Titan Reloading. You know, the thing is, go ahead.
Episodes on casting.
I'm sorry?
So I'd love to hear some more episodes of you talking about casting.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's stick with, but let's go back to the show notes. Okay, well, he wanted to know a little bit about it. Well, okay, about my career and how it relates to the hobby. Well, I've used my career to do things like carpentry. I had to learn trigonometry in the machining trade. And you have very basic trigonometry, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and all the variations of that particular formula. And there's about 45 of them, I think. But anyway, the point is, I actually used that to build roof trusses one time. That was many years ago. And I have learned to apply my machining skills and knowledge into the real world. Like Phil was talking about woodworking. Well, I use woodworking. I've been doing quite a bit of woodworking out in the garage. And guess whose machining skills are right there on top of it, on top of all of it. That's how it works. I just, I try to think of ways of how I would do it if I were doing a machine job. And Brewer Bill, I'll tell you what, if you want to find a machine shop, find yourself a high performance go fast shop for cars or motorcycles. They'll know where the machine shops are.
And they'll know
And if
where
you're not
a good machine shop is.
Right, exactly. Well, no, we're not saying cheap. We said good. The other thing is too about that is you could go to a car parts store, somebody that sells rebuilt heads, somebody that sells remachine heads, somebody like that. They'll know where the machine shops are. Thanks, Kel. You got a good point. The reloading press in the chat says woodworking is a devil. Good point, Kel. Good point. Jesus was a carpenter.
I try.
Anyway.
You guys want to go on to the next one, or?
Yeah, we better before we lose the whole audience.
All right. So, Mike doesn't have it listed. Who said this? But here it goes. This is my first attempt at seating a bullet to be closer to the lands versus the book's recommended COL. Gun is a Ruger American 6.5 Creedmoor, Hornady brass with Hornady 123 grain SSTs. My max cartridge overall length with the bullet touching the lands is 2.855. I am seating the bullet at 2.84, and the picture is what it looks like. And the picture is what that looks like. Should I be worried about how far the seating depth is from the cantilever? Hornady 10th edition book recommends a COL of 2.710. Am I too far off on my COL versus recommended to safely reload this length? Thanks for your help, and I found your podcast to be very helpful to the new reloader. Mike does not have the picture here, but just based on his numbers. So those were, again, his max cartridge length is 2.855. He's at 2.845. And the book says 2.710.
Well, we pretty well covered this. I think the last episode, or maybe the one before that, that seating at the cantilever is not strictly necessary. Because, I asked that same question in something I was reloading.
Oh, I think he's. Oh, it was cantilever. Okay, yeah.
Well, what we just bumped into the old demon about who sets up and why they set it up, the overall length of the cartridge. Most of it is the gun maker and how long they make the magazine that fits into their gun. The magazine in a bolt gun, or the magazine in an AR-15, or a Beretta 99, or a Taurus 92, or whatever the number might be. The Colt 1911. It all depends upon the magazine. It's not really set up for the way the gun is, because a lot of folks, if you single load your ammo in that Creedmoor, you'd be surprised how long you could load that stuff. Might not fit in the magazine well, but you single load, so you're already good to go.
That's a good point, Jim, because I've worked on 3 of those Ruger Americans, and if you can fit it in the magazine, you're well safe. The magazine doesn't have a lot of room left in it to really extend beyond, especially with those SSTs, really extend beyond a safe zone. So
It's also worth pointing out that the Ruger American, best I'm aware, is a push feed action, unlike the M77s and the Hawkeyes, which are controlled feed. So you can legitimately single load an American. It's not gonna cause any issues. I know that if you try to single load an M77, sooner or later you're going to wind up busting an extractor, or so I'm told.
Just based on those numbers alone, what is he? He's 10 thou off of where the bullet's touching the lands.
Most of the reloaders I know of that like to start out at the experienced ones that are working, trying to see how close they get to the lands. 10,000s, 15,000s, that's actually a good, safe place to start, because you're not jamming into the right lands, and you're also not forcing your bullet to jump, a quarter inch before it engages the rifling. You're also giving your bullet enough time to break the inertia of sitting still, as opposed to forcing it into the lands and grooves, from a dead stop. So that way your bullet doesn't have 2 things to overcome. All you could do is just cut and try in this sort of a situation. You might find out, I'm not sure who the listener was, but to the listener, you might find out that your rifle likes, it's seated 45 thousandths away from the lands. Don't be afraid to try, seating it a little bit deeper.
You may also find that, like the case I ran into, my rifle doesn't seem to care at all what overall length you load from. Like in my 308 Winchester, from 2.8 inches to 10 thousandths off the lands, that rifle doesn't care, because I did a lot of shooting to find my best powder charge, and then I started playing with the overall length, and absolutely nothing I did with the overall length had any effect on accuracy whatsoever. The rifle just doesn't seem to care. Now that's with Sierra Match Kings. I did the same thing with Hornady AMAX probably about a year and a half ago, and I found the AMAX to be very picky of overall length, but the Match Kings don't seem to care. Again, in my rifle, so do not be shocked, whatever you find.
What kind of rifle are you talking about? A Ruger M77 or what model 70 or 700?
M77.
Okay, so that's with controlled feed.
Yep. Which
Not
is
that
why
that makes a difference.
No, but I do stay within magazine length. But I found that with the AMAXs, I had to choke them down just a little bit to stay in the magazine. With the Match Kings, I mean the ogive and everything is such a different shape. I can load those things right into the lands, and I'm still inside the magazine.
Wow. The other thing is too, nose deformation. You know, when the magazine well slams into the bullet nose, you know, because it's in there, and the bullet and cartridge sits still, and the rifle recoils around it, and it smacks into the front of the magazine well, you get bullet nose deformation. That's the other reason why they tell you to set back about a 1/16 of an inch or so, because that gives the cartridge time to, you know, move with the gun.
Makes sense.
That's why, yeah, you know, that's why a lot of the folks that shoot long distance have developed a habit of just single loading and be done. To hell with the rifle magazine. Well, heck, there's a lot of rifles out there that have a solid bottom in the receiver.
Yeah, people pay extra money to remove the bottom metal and replace it with just a.
Exactly. Exactly. I've heard of that.
And I will speak strictly from knowing that Ruger American really well. If you aren't getting the desired results, they love 140s. So 140, blanking on the name right now. Not the AMAX, the ELDMs.
Extreme low drag. That sounds like Burger Bullets.
No, it's Hornady.
Okay. If I had to, I was going to say, I was going to ask you what color the box was. Wow.
All right, and then there was another comment earlier on, and it came from the Facebook group. It was, what are some signs that the flash hole and primer are not centered to the case?
When you snap a decapping pin.
Sorry.
I'm being a little sarcastic, but a little bit serious too. I mean, when you bust a decapping pin, things weren't where they were supposed to be.
Well, I'm laughing because it's what Phil said. It was 100% true. Unfortunately, it's too late. To that particular listener, the way to tell if your flash hole's off center is shine your flashlight down the neck of the case, down that little thing, down there in that hole. See if you can get your flashlight down in there. No, you can't, but get the light down in there, and that's how you tell. There's no other way to tell. There is no other way to tell before you put the decapping spindle down in there.
You learn very quickly with certain calibers or certain cartridges to double check for burr and brass.
Yes.
You only need to take one decapping pin and point it back at Jesus before you learn that lesson.
Amen.
Burr primed and perfect the brass.
Yep. If the case is steel, you better watch it.
Even if it isn't steel, I mean, I have seen, even though it's uncommon, some Burr Prime brass.
Oh,
I have a can of Burr Prime Lapua 760x39 brass in the garage right now.
I've seen 5.56 Burr primed.
Oh no, that's just mean spirited.
That's a fact.
Whoever invented that ought to be flogged with a wet noodle until he comes to his senses. The same guy that thought up small primer pocket 45 ACP brass.
It was ammunition out of Israel. It's probably cheaper some way or another to manufacture. I don't know. To me, the idea of just a quick punch through the head of the case, as opposed to going down from the inside with a double prong tool, it's much finer. I don't know.
I think it's honestly more of a geographical issue because I mean, if you look at the rest of the world, we are the ones that stick out because we're one of the few countries that is stuck on boxer primers. Europe, the old the communist bloc, everybody else uses Burnham.
Thank you for saying communist.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, the old com block countries. But the point is that everybody on that side of the pond uses Burnham primers, so that's what they can source readily.
There's a legal reason for that too, because a lot of countries it's illegal to reload. I don't want to get into a legal thing here, but the point is, I know for a fact I've seen people tell me in Russia it's illegal to reload.
Yeah, not like you can't go buy friggin' 7.62x39 by the crate from some drunken Russian on every street corner.
Well, and that's another issue.
I know. I'm gonna leave it alone. That's as bad as I'm getting right there.
You're gonna kill Jason.
We've been trying for a while, but he just won't die.
No, Jason doesn't want to get me started on stupid politics and stupid laws.
All right, no, we don't, because we know you won't.
I was in the military when the Russians were our enemies. I find that amusing. I find that funny.
Yeah.
See, that's the funny part is sidebar. When I enlisted and I went to base training, the rifle range had the Crazy Ivan still. It was the green pop-up targets with the red star in the helmet. And over the course of my 6-year enlistment from 2000 to 06, we went from Crazy Ivans to desert and terrorists. So it's this weird little transitional period within the military. Of course, we all saw 3 different uniform changes in 6 years. It was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Does anybody have anything else they brought up or had brought up to them? Or
The only thing I have is, hey, as far as I could see, this was a damn good show.
I'm fond of it.
Well, we know that you're sitting at the home of the host.
Wasn't
Get into his beer fridge and see what he's got in there. It's good to drink.
Yeah, go pull a couple out for yourself there, Kel.
He won't mind. Trust us.
Yeah, he's fine.
all ciders and shandies.
Oh,
Ew.
nothing dark and earthy.
Outside of powder, no.
Well, switch some of that around your mouth. That'll be better than ciders.
All right, guys. Well, Mike told me to wrap it up if he's not back, so.
There is one thing we want to do is we haven't put in there. Mike usually copies and pastes it into the audio show, and we want to thank Patriot Patch Company for the bandwidth that they provide for us, and we want to thank them for all the support they've given us over the years.
Oh, that's great.
Jason, what else is there that we usually do on the show?
Shout out.
Keep your powder dry.
Oh, no, not yet, Jason. Shut up.
That's all I know.
You got to
No,
thank the Patreons.
All right, there.
Hey, absolutely. The Patreons. Those are the folks that give us money to sit here and spew baloney in their ear.
People give us money for this?
Yeah.
I haven't seen a cent. So.
What a bunch of idiots.
Nice talk, Jason.
What? Sorry. Who said that?
Well, actually, the money they use goes a long way towards supporting our bandwidth.
It
Then
does.
that bandwidth costs money.
So
Go ahead.
we would like to extend a thanks to Mr. Anonymous, David S., Russ H. Brian.
We don't read those anymore.
You don't read those anymore?
No, stop.
List is getting too long.
Yep.
All of them.
We thank everyone, absolutely everyone.
Perfect. All right. Well, keep your brass shiny.
Keep your powder dry.
Squeeze, don't yank that trigger. Hey, you two, if you two are going to be regulars, you got to come up with a tagline. I'm talking to you two.
I did last week.
What
Buy
it
it
was?
cheap and stack it deep.
There you go. Travis, did you come
Take
up with a
someone-
tagline yet?
Take someone shooting.
Excellent.
Good one. That's an excellent one. Oh, that was a good one. Turds.
All right, everybody.
He copied Stan. That's no fair because he actually knows Stan.
This is a rough crowd, huh?
Oh yeah,
You weren't supposed to know that.
gloves are off, baby.
And nobody gets slack on this show, especially the
Hey,
host.
Jason, the next time you order targets, I'm sending you a box of rocks.
Ooh. I'll bet you any money the next time you do get some targets from him, there will be at least one stone in that besides the targets. I'll bet anything.
I'm gonna go shoot the crap out of your target, just so you know. I'm gonna put holes in it and tell you it's a piece of junk.
Well, you haven't shot the last one you got. That's just an empty threat.
I'm gonna shoot this. I'm gonna shoot it now,
Okay, Jason. We
and
believe.
I'm just gonna smack the hell out of it.
Good
And
luck
say,
with that.
Travis, this thing didn't hold up to my 22. It's got 50 caliber holes through it.
Mhm.
All right,
Travis looks frightened.
I
You look
appreciate
for
what you produce, Travis. I really like your product.
Amen. I do too.
Thank you.
okay.
All right, kick us off there, Kel.